And one time, one of my best stories about this, and I was in a cafeteria at a hospital. And there was a mom who had two little kids. One was quite small. Little girl looked to be about 2, and the little boy looked to be about 4. And he was having what we call, affectionately, a stampede. Yep. It was full blown. He was red in the face, rolling on the floor. He was sweating.
Oh, bless his heart.
And poor mom, and she looked exhausted and stuff. And I didn't even approach her at all. Excuse me. And I was off to the side anyway, and there was nobody else in the cafeteria but her and I anyway. And I sat and surrogately tapped for her and surrogately tapped for him. And within minutes, he settled down, and she had him by the hand. They were walking out, and he was just as calm as he could be.
Oh, my God.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, wow, that is really amazing.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, and my tooth feels a little bit better. I'm going to do it tonight.
Now, here's what I would tell you about your tooth. You have some feelings about the tooth beside it.
Yes.
See, sometimes you have to tap about, get rid of those emotional issues.
Ah, right.
Okay. Even though I'm kind of, let's do this stuff. Even though I'm kind of pissed off about the dentist.
Even though I'm kind of pissed off about the dentist.
And now I've got a tooth that didn't hurt before.
And now I've got a tooth that didn't hurt before.
Now I've got to have more work done.
Now I have to have more work done.
I'm not happy.
I'm not happy.
He's going to hear about it.
He's going to hear about it.
Because all my friends are hearing about it.
All my friends are hearing about it.
They know I'm not happy.
They know I'm not happy.
And I've been doing really good work with my teeth.
I've been doing really good work with my teeth.
And I love my dentist.
And
now I need to forgive him.
I need to
embrace it and release it.
If
he's responsible in any way, I know he didn't do it on purpose.
I
love my dentist. He's a good guy.
He is a good guy.
My teeth are good.
We
just had a little bump in the road.
This little bump in the road.
This little bump in the road.
This little bump in the road.
My tooth will be fine. It was just a little bump in the road. My tooth will be fine.
Oh, my tooth will be fine.
There's something here for me to learn. It's really easy to forgive people.
It's
just a little bump in the road. Take a deep breath.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do feel better.
Yeah. And, it's that negative stuff. Now, here's the thing. If you want to hear a little bit of a story here of an explanation.
Can I tell you this real quick?
Yeah.
The pain just flew. I felt it go.
It moved?
Anyways, I just had to, right. Well, you were.
Mm-hmm.
It was moved.
Huh.
About that far. I could feel it.
Well, it's on its way out.
Yeah, and speaking of that, let's stay right there. Bring me back where we were there for a second.
I'm sorry.
Deb's looking at me like, where were we exactly? Yeah. But I forgot to tell you is the results from tapping can sometimes have a delayed reaction. Meaning, I remember having people who I always schedule 50 minutes for a session with somebody, and maybe, I'm always shooting for 0 on scale of 0 to 10. Mm-hmm. Time's up. We're not at 0. We're at like 3, and they got to go, and dang it, I wish we could do more. But the truth is, I've had people call me later and say, by the time I got home, it was gone. Mm-hmm. All right? And you'll read stories. If you start doing some research online, that's not that uncommon. That for 10, 30 minutes or so, or maybe even more, it continues to get results. So
I felt it.
Oh.
Sorry. Okay.
Don't be sorry. I mean, this is what they need to hear.
Yes. So where were we?
Your teeth.
Hang on. Where were we? I was going to go somewhere. That was my fault because I got sidetracked because I wanted to tell you that note. Well, it'll come. It'll tell you.
The thing that's so interesting is it's energy, and it's on the acupuncture meridians, which is the same uses, and So it's like releasing. It's releasing.
Yes. See, here's what I've read. I read a lot of articles. There's been people looking at this and researching what is exactly going on. They've been looking at it for a lot of years, a couple decades now. 2 or 3, maybe going on 4 decades now, and. Here's what I learned, and I think that it's true. I subscribe to this idea. Let's say, for example, you walk through a doorway and you catch your baby toe.
Ouch.
Barefoot. Slam that bad boy right into the door jamb, okay?
It hurts.
All right. I've done the same one 6 times, all right?
Oh, purple toe.
I've had a blood blister up on top of a blood blister because I couldn't seem to clear the doorway. Anyway, here's what this article said. Now, it's up to you. You're going to believe it or not believe it. But here's what happens. That there are actual chemical things in the brain that happen at the moment that injury occurs. The brain releases 3 chemicals immediately to the site of the injury. One of those has to do with the emotional component. So, at the point that I hit that door jamb the first time, I'm in a different state than I am the 4th or 5th time. Right? So what happens is those energies, those chemicals can get blocked at the site of the injury because of my state of mind.
Right. So it's like you learn from putting your hand on the stove not to put your hand on the stove.
Right.
And if you do it again, it's going to hurt faster than it did the first time because you know it's going to hurt.
But the extra element is, why did I get burned in the first place? Well, because somebody came in and bumped me, and then I went to put my hand down, so it wasn't your fault.
Oh, right.
That's the emotional component.
Okay.
Was this my fault? Am I to blame? Am I guilty?
Right.
Okay, did I do this? That's why I got to tell you, if you're going to try this technique at home on your own, there's a little phrase that seems to break loose barriers, emotional barriers and blockages that make people have breakthroughs that they wouldn't normally have, and that is this little phrase, and I forgive myself for any part I played. You don't even need to know what the part was.
Right.
Okay, especially like when you're doing older stuff, that you've had forever, or resentments with somebody, or relationship stuff, whether it's physical or emotional, it doesn't matter. And you don't need to identify that part, but you need to give yourself permission to forgive, release, and let go of any part I played in it.
That's important.
It is important.
Really important, isn't it?
It is really important. And people get amazing results. Now, speaking of results, I will tell you, I had just enough clients back in the day where I would have people say, we had a great time when I was there, and we did this, and we solved that, and got rid of this and that, and I go home, and I can't get rid of the pain of a hangnail on my own. And it's very frustrating for people because they think it only works when they're with me.
Right.
Maybe it does.
Well, here's what I've talked to Gary Craig about this too, and what we discussed that day, the last time we were talking about that subject, is that for the same reason that, say, a person like myself, being an energy worker, I have a hard time doing my own stuff. I can work miracles for you, but my stuff is stubborn. Mm-hmm. And I said to Gary, am I like the only one? He goes, oh dear, no, you are not. It's like a phenomenon amongst energy workers that's a very true statement. And the thing is because my role when I'm with you is I'm listening. I am listening. I'm like the detective, listening for the words you use to describe what's happening. When you're working on your own stuff, you don't have that same detective going, what was that word you just used? Because many times I'll have people telling me, describing something that's really bothering them, and I'll stop and I say, did you hear the word you just used to describe that? And no, what are you talking about? See, they didn't hear it at all. But that was my job to hear it.
Right.
Okay.
And so when you're talking to yourself, you don't hear the
words.
The
descriptive words.
And I find that too with the Reiki. Like I just had the flu, and I was giving myself Reiki treatments, and nothing was helping. Finally, one night it worked a little bit to where my stomach settled down, but I think it just settled down. So I know exactly what you're saying. I'm going to read this to you because it's exactly what you just said. Harvard Medical School has been doing a lot of research on tapping. So I'm not going to read all of it. I just want to read part of it. The scientific basis for tapping therapy revolves around the functions of a specific almond-shaped part of your brain called the amygdala. Yep. It is part of the body's limbic system, the source of emotions and long-term memory. This is exactly what you were talking about. The amygdala is known as the brain's fear center, from which the fight or flight response originates, alerting other parts of the brain that it senses danger. This, in turn, initiates the firing of other brain receptors and the release of specific hormones that allow the body to respond to the perceived danger. This process is highly useful when faced with a real survival situation or an actual threat, but can be detrimental when developed into an irrational fear such as public speaking or fear of rejection. Tapping has been shown to literally turn off the amygdala, disrupting the stress response and allowing the brain synapses to be rewired for a more appropriate emotional response to a given situation, which is very interesting. Now, see, I bet you 10 years ago there was no... Did they even know about the amygdala 10 years ago? Probably, but so the more that they find, even energy work aside, the more that they find out about that body-mind connection, the more that all these ancient, like Reiki, like Ayurvedic medicine, tapping, all these acupuncture, acupressure, reflexology, all these things are going to be proven scientifically. Yeah. And they are being proven every day scientifically. But it's the same thing as the placebo effect. If you think it's going to help, if you know in your heart it's going to help, it will help.
Well, and that's a really
sometimes
good...
it does.
That's a really good point, Deb, because I've had people say, well, I'd like to share this with my brother or somebody, but, they wouldn't believe that any of this works. And I said, they don't really have to believe.
Exactly.
They really don't have to believe. You can block it in that you refuse to use it. But I have had people, and this is not, we'll touch on an area that can be very controversial, and I know that I could easily sidestep this subject, but I'm not going to. We touched a little bit on the idea of surrogate tapping, where you tap on someone's behalf. First, I want to say one of the biggest benefits of being able to do surrogate tapping is because I can do this on pets and I can do this on babies.
Right.
Now, they're not going to repeat after me and say what I say, whether I'm right.
That would be kind of freaky if they did.
Yeah. And I've worked on horses and dogs and cats, and birds, and I've done that kind of work and had success. Do I save every animal's life? Well, not everybody's supposed to live to be 140.
Right, exactly.
That's not the goal. Relieving stress, relieving pain, whatever can be, because stress is causing a lot of pain. Worry causes pain. When you worry, those acids that are stirred in your stomach that give you a nervous stomach and make you want to throw up. Do you think that's your body reacting to an emotional contributor?
And what happens if you keep having that, and if you keep having that acid reflux, and it breaks down, into illness. Right.
And so there are some people that believe, and Gary Craig has addressed this a couple different times, and he now has a newer version of his answer to, should you surrogately tap someone without their permission?
Oh.
And his earliest answer to that question that I recall was he kind of, and it can be a tricky little area to start it this way, but some people thought of it as, Gary says, it's like if I wanted to pray for somebody, I don't ask their permission to pray for them.
Oh, right.
And so he sort of thought of it the same exact way. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and to this day, it's really, that's the concept. So I don't ask you to have it like. There was another example. He used to say things like, "I don't ask permission to have a bad thought about you. Why should I ask permission to do a good thing?" Mm-hmm. Okay. So I have had blind tests, meaning I I did surrogate tapping on someone who has still to this day never met me. A friend of mine's daughter lived in a state out west, Utah or Wyoming or someplace, and said, could you, I don't know what you can do. I don't know if this is in your wheelhouse or not, but if there's anything you can do, we just can't even speak on the